You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network. It's the TuAmigos Podcast with Carter and Jorge at DolphinsTalk.com.
Welcome back to the TuAmigos. I'm not going to sugarcoat this show. I'm doing a solo show because, fuck it, I don't care. I can do what I want. I get paid six figures for this. I don't get paid nothing. But what I will say to you is that the Dolphins once again disappointed us. I'm not going to mince words with you in this episode. They disappointed us. I know there's going to be a lot of backlash, and I hope that you hold your your snow cones or hold your rocks before you start pelting me here. Because let me explain the historical context of this. If we're going to look at the game's context, I promise you that matters, right? The game's context was very, very clear. We didn't have the refs on our side. We were in Philadelphia against a team that was in the Super Bowl last year, and we were pretty riddled with injuries on the left side of the offensive line and at cornerback. All of those things are true. But if we're going to look at the context of this game, we also have to look at the context of the Dolphins, right? And the context of teams that end up becoming dynasties and end up, kind of overcoming these injuries and overcoming all of this bad stuff that seems to happen to them. Okay, so let's think about it this way. I've been a Dolphin fan for like 20 years, okay? And for 20 straight years, not a single season has gone by where they haven't disappointed me and lost the big game. Lost the big game, we'll rattle off a couple games in a row, and then the media will start putting us in the top 3 in the power rankings, and then they'll start wondering, is this the same old Dolphins team? And this organization, I don't know what it is, has this really amazing way to prove itself right that it is the same old Dolphins. For 20 straight years, they have lost the games that have mattered the most. This is the game that has one of the biggest games for us, narrative-wise, for the last decade. In my opinion, it's the biggest game of, you beat the Eagles in Philadelphia, a team that was in the Super Bowl last year. Doesn't matter what's going on, the context of the game. If you can go up and you could beat them in Philadelphia, no one will question for the rest of the season, in through the playoffs, if you're a contender or not. We talked about last week, if we got blown out, that this whole sandcastle would demolish itself from the inside. That didn't happen. We were right there with them, right? We lost by 14, but it really felt like we lost by a field goal. And I'll give you that, right? But do we want moral victories all the frickin' time? I cannot live in this historical context of my life as a Dolphin fan and be okay with those moral victories. This whole NFL season, every NFL season, isn't just about, winning one playoff game or winning a couple playoff games. It's about winning the whole thing. And we never dream that big, right? We never dream that big as Dolphin fans. We always go, maybe this is the year that we make it to the AFC Championship game. Well, fuck that game. Who cares about that game? The kind of aspirations we should be aiming at is the Super Bowl. And I'll tell you this, philosophically, we have been trained as Dolphin fans to have lower expectations, to have mediocre expectations of this team. For years and years and years, I've suffered through 8-8, 9-7, 9-7, 7-9, mediocre for years and years and years. And all the big games, we make excuses why we lost. During the Patriots dynasty, when they were winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl with literally different wide receivers every year, different cornerbacks every year, it didn't matter who was playing offensive line. All that mattered, it felt like, was that Tom Brady was taking the snaps. And that's my only thing, is it starts to feel like maybe there's this weird organizational cancer, or maybe we haven't found the guy, or he hasn't proven he can be the guy yet, because I'm not going to give up on Tua. I would never give up on Tua. He's got all the talent in the world. This show's named after the guy, for God's sakes. But I'm more saying that he needs to become the guy this season for me. Literally this season, now. He needs to become that type of guy that it really doesn't matter if Jalen Ramsey's out or his left side of his line's out. He's getting the ball out so early, and he's so precise, and he's so Tom Brady-esque that when you sack him, when you get to the quarterback, when you make him look bad, it's kind of a surprise to the rest of the NFL. We're just not there yet. I know I'm holding up Tua to the standards of the greatest dynasty in NFL history, but it's hard not to when they're in the AFC East with you and that you've been watching Patriots football for this entire time. My point is I'm just kind of done with the excuses of the Dolphins, the mediocrity, the not winning big games. I'm done with the excuses. If this player was back, win the game. Literally just win the game. So that is 6-7 minutes of a rant to really just get to the point of I am very disappointed. And really in my head, we've proven once again that we have philosophically been conditioned like to think about the Dolphins in the way of like, oh, give them excuses. They didn't have a lot of players. Oh, I mean, what are they going to beat last year's Super Bowl champs? Come on. They're not in their league. They're not going to beat them in Philadelphia with injuries going on. If we are in the league of Super Bowl winners, we are totally, no matter what is going on, as long as Tua is taking the snaps, we should be in that game, most likely winning that game if we're going to win the Super Bowl this year. I'm just saying. Because at the end of the year, when we go into the playoffs, it's totally possible that we're riddled with injuries. People that are riddled with injuries still can win the Super Bowl if they have an elite quarterback. If their quarterback's playing at an elite level and they get hot, it really doesn't matter who's out there. And we've seen that again and again and again. So, I guess that's really my rant for the day. But what I will say about the Eagles games is I watched it with an Eagles friend. He was such a dick about it the entire time, and I'm not super happy being a Dolphin fan. If we don't beat the Chiefs when Jalen Ramsey's back and we have all these players back from injury, if we can't beat the Chiefs, I think I'm going to self-destruct. It's really going to prove to me that we are a year away, just like every single year, that we're a couple of years away. Well, we're not going to get there yet. We need to beat the Chiefs. This is once again one of those dead weeks heading into Patriots week where I really just don't care about the outcome. Like if we win, we were supposed to win, and we've been beating shitty teams all season long. If we lose this game, we're the biggest frauds in the NFL, right? So that is kind of where I'm at. The one thing I think is really funny from this last week, and it gave me a big chuckle, is the essence of this idea is that the Bills lost to the Patriots, and the week before they really should have lost to the Giants, and they've been just rattling off losses here and there, and they don't look very good. That's great to watch the Bills implode and their dynasty sort of fall apart before it got together. And if it continues this way and they're shitty for the next 5 or 6 years trying to build around Josh Allen, but he's making $50 million, that's going to be a beautiful, beautiful poetry for me. And I really loved this last week to watch them lose that game. But I will say this. This coming week is not interesting to me at all. When I watch this game, I'm going to be expecting a blowout on our side. We should blow them out. We are at home. Doesn't matter how healthy we are. If we're a good team, we beat that team. That's why I'm telling you right now, it doesn't feel like the Bills are a very good team. They're not beating the teams they should beat. I know they're really injured, but honestly, they've been more injured in past seasons, and they've played a lot better. I'll tell you this, though. It is true that the Bills get better and better as it gets colder. Literally the last 3 seasons, I think they're 8-0 in the, or 16-0 in the last 2 months of the season, whatever it is. They really went a lot towards the end of the season, so I wouldn't completely count out the Bills, but it is one of those situations where I really want to watch them burn. Moving on to this week, Patriots game, we should win 50-0. If we don't win like 50-10, something like that, it really doesn't matter. We just got to beat them by a lot. Now we have to kind of go into this next conversation, though, and that is if we want to, I think we need to think about this from the perspective of the entire season. If we want to go to the playoffs and we want to win it all, because that's the thing. I don't want to just watch Tyreek Hill be fun for 17 games, and then we get in the playoffs and we lose the first round. I'm just not uninterested in that. What I'm interested in is getting that 1 seed. That is literally the only way that the Dolphins win this Super Bowl. If they want to win a Super Bowl this year, it's possible. If they're healthy, if they beat the Chiefs, they prove they can beat the Chiefs or maybe the Bills later in this year, it's totally possible that they could be a Super Bowl team. Right now, I don't think of them that way. I think of them as they win the first round of the playoffs, they lose the second. That's how I view them, really. Like, they're going to lose the big game, but they'll win the game they should against, like, the Browns or whatever team we end up playing. I think we win that first game. But if we get a first-round bye and we end up having to play, I don't know, the Ravens in the second round at home, I think we win that game. I think, we need it to be warm for Tua. We need to be at home because we seem to dominate offensively when we're at home. And, like, the atmosphere isn't really against Tua. Like, all of these things matter. Like, I think there's a huge percentage of people who get the 1 seed and go to the Super Bowl. It's, like, super, super correlated. And it should be because you're getting this huge advantage. So let's do this. This part of the show is going to be called Road to the number 1 seed. And this is what exactly needs to happen if we want to go, if we want to get there. So let me look up the rest of the Dolphins schedule, because that will be a huge indication of what we need to do going forward. I believe in order to get the 1 seed, you're going to need to get 14 wins. So you're going to need to be 14-3. I know that sounds like far-fetched, because when's the last time the Dolphins won 11 games, and 14 is insane. But we're basically halfway through the season, maybe a little bit less than halfway through the season. And in my opinion, next week we'll be 6-2, which will be basically halfway through the season, and that will show us there's your 4 losses. You need to maybe lose like 1 less than that to get to 14 wins. So I think we beat the Patriots. Then the Dolphins-Chiefs game is going to be the most important game of the entire year. This is at a neutral site, so we don't have to worry. Honestly, I'm glad it's not an Arrowhead. I really wanted to go to that game, and I was really pissed off when they took it away. But now that it's at a natural site, I actually kind of feel a little bit better, just because I don't want to play on the road anymore against a high-powered team like that. So it's on a neutral site in Germany, Chiefs-Dolphins. If we get that matchup win over them, it's really kind of it's going to be us or them. For that 1 seed, us, them, the Ravens, whoever it is, this is the biggest win to get over a team that's been in the Super Bowl the last 3 years and has had the 1 seed the last 2. This will be the biggest win of the season for many, many reasons. So if we can go 7-2 through there, beat the Raiders to go to 8-2, beat the Jets to go to 9-2, beat the Commanders to go to 10-2, beat the Titans to go to 11-2. I think we lose one of the Jets games to go to 11-3. I think here's the issue. Now we get into the hard rest part of our schedule at 11-3, and this doesn't look like it adds up to 14 wins for us. With the Cowboys, Ravens, and the Bills as our final 3 stretch, man, we're going to be beaten up. I kind of forgot that we had this stretch toward the end. We have kind of after the Chiefs game, we have like a 5-game window where it lightens up. And then we have a 3-game road stretch. Actually, we have Dolphins at home against Cowboys and Dolphins at home against Bills. But we have 3 games in a row that are all totally possible we lose all 3. So the Dolphins-Cowboys, I think we probably lose that game. When we play really, really good defenses, for whatever reason, we just look shitty. And I think that brings us to that 4th loss on the season. Then it's Dolphins-Ravens. It depends on what Ravens team we're getting, but we're on the road in Baltimore against a really good head coach, against Lamar Jackson, who might want revenge on us because we've beaten them the last 3 times, and we beat them last year with Tua coming back, scorching back with 6 touchdowns. So it's definitely a rivalry at this point, I think. It maybe even goes all the way back to Kiko Alonso knocking out Joe Flacco on, I think it was Thursday Night Football or Monday Night Football. So I think this is probably a loss, to be honest. And that brings us to 5 losses. And then we finish the season at home against the Bills, and I think that's a win. So realistically, I think it's a 12-5 season, but the problem is you really got to get to 14 or 13 wins to win that, to have any shot at that 1 seed. And one of those wins needs to be against the Chiefs in 2 weeks. That's the one game you have to win. Nothing else matters. That's the game. So I think road to the 1 seed language-wise here, win that game, and at least you got a shot at it. I don't think there's any chance that if we have to go to Arrowhead in January, Buffalo in January, whatever team wins that 1 seed, if we have to go to Baltimore in January, there's no team that we play on the road that I feel comfortable beating to go to the Super Bowl. No, not a single team. We get this home field advantage, everything changes. Doesn't matter if we're the best team, as long as we can be at home a little bit. There's just such an advantage to it. So, I mean, I know this was a lot of ranting, but I'm really trying to set you up here. Theoretically, all I really care about is narratives. Like, that's why I love sports. I care about how the public eye views us, how I view my own team, how the public eye views Tua, and right now, the entirety of the world, and they've seen it for their own eyes. Philadelphia versus the Dolphins this last week, they viewed it for their own eyes that the Dolphins are overrated and they can't beat the good team. That's what they view us as. And we have really one game in the next, honestly, 7 games that can prove them wrong without a doubt. If you beat the Chiefs, everything changes. Tua changes. Tua's mind, everyone's mind on Tua being a game manager and just running a good system changes. And the way that they view this team and this offense, it all changes. This will be the biggest pivotal win that could be a Super Bowl defining win. I'm not kidding. In my opinion, if you have any shot of winning the Super Bowl, you got to beat the Chiefs because it has everything to do with that first seed and everything to do with warm weather through the playoffs. So next week could really be our Super Bowl. We lose that game, I almost want to pack it up and call it a season, at least in terms of those high expectations and aspirations. So you really got to ride with me here. The Patriots this week should be an easy victory. If it's the team we think they are, it should be an easy victory. And everything changes in Germany if we can pull out a win. Dolphins fan for life, even though they are mediocre and they lose all the big moments and they disappoint me and they hurt me out again and again and again like a toxic ex-girlfriend. But what I will say is, I enjoy the ride every single year, and you should too. I just get up in my feelings a little bit. This has been the TuAmigos. I'll see you next week. And for sure, Jorge will be back for the Chiefs-Dolphins preview. Love you guys. Bye.